Hi, welcome to the BeyondTheBaselines.com podcast. I'm Ed Shanafi. I'm your host, and today I'm joined by two wonderful ladies who I found on Instagram, the social media platform where Kate Cole, who's Tennis Cocktails and Motherhood on Instagram, and Laura Fox, who's the Tennis Fox on Instagram, have the fans reeling literally from their reels. So what I want to do is introduce both of them. Laura, welcome from Charlotte, and Kate, welcome from Boston. And Laura, please tell us, how did you start? When did you start playing tennis, and how did you come into putting your tennis fears and loves on Instagram?
Well, I started tennis in my late 30s. My kids were one was in elementary school, the others had started preschool, and I just wanted something active to do. And I honestly, it was just random that I decided tennis. I'm not an athletic person at all. Um, at all. But my husband plays golf, and I guess he had mentioned something about maybe joining a country club. So I thought, well, let me see about tennis. Took a couple lessons and just, loved it. Met the girls, had a great time. The pro that I worked with at the club that we wound up joining, I mean, he quickly put me into the fire, threw me on a team like after only maybe a couple months of lessons, right? And so I had to learn to swim right away, and it was great. It was perfect. It's exactly what I needed. It wound up being a great thing to keep me active, but also meeting other people that, my circle before that was always the preschool moms, right? You do the play dates. And so everything centered around the children. Now it became something a little bit more than that, which is what I really, I think, connected with the mothers. We were on a different level. Sure, we talked about our kids too, but it became more about who you are as a person, kind of like, you know, being something other than a mother, which was really great at that time in my life. It really came at a wonderful time for me. And obviously I was bitten by the bug. I mean, once you start tennis, you really can't stop. You just fall in love with it. So I've been playing ever since. I think it's probably been about at least 7 years now since I started playing tennis.
That's great. And Kate, what about you?
So I'm a little bit different than Laura, but I started earlier than Laura. I started playing when I was about 3 or 4. My parents were into tennis, so I would go out on the court with them a lot, started just, getting the balls for them. And then I started playing, and then I didn't really get into it until middle school. And I played throughout, when I was 5 and up, but I didn't really start getting into it until I was about, I would say like I was about 11 or 12. And then I started playing the junior tournaments and all of that. And then played in high school. And then during high school, I kind of got to a point where I didn't love it as much. Tennis can be such a lonely sport out there, or at least playing singles. So there was a time where I just wasn't into it, but then I got back into it in college and then had kids and didn't play for years. Now I'm slowly getting back into it. I wish I were playing as much as Laura. I mean, honestly, I've only done recently like a couple, like just clinics, basically. I would love to be on a team, but with my kids are young, so I can't really commit to a team at the moment, but hopefully when they start like kindergarten, or when my youngest starts kindergarten, hopefully then I can really get serious about it again, because it is such a great sport. And socially, I miss, connecting with other moms like Laura. It's so great that you have that, that group of women that don't want to just talk about the kid stuff. Cause I love my kids, but it gets a little, tedious and tiring talking about mom life stuff all the time. That's that.
So that's
nice
great,
outlet, right? It's a nice outlet outside family life, right? But
yes.
What I found too is the relationships I have built through tennis with these mothers. It becomes very deep friendships, actually, right? Like we're there for each other outside of tennis. So if we've got meal trains going on for families that have had losses recently or something like that. And so it's really been a great thing all around, socially, physically, mentally, right? And then of course you get that challenge because what I found was after leaving the workforce and being at home, you no longer get the same kind of accolades that you did at work, right? Like And when you're at work, okay, I've got these goals, I'm going to achieve these goals, and you feel good, right? You're climbing up the ranks. When you go to motherhood, we're not going to see the fruits of our labor for years to come. You kind of feel that way, right? And so with tennis, I mean, it maybe sounds cheesy, but I began to feel like, okay, I'm setting goals for myself in tennis, similar to what I would have done maybe in the working world. So I'm starting to see achievements in the work that I'm putting into it. So it is kind of that probably sounds really cheesy, but for me, I realized immediately, oh my gosh, this is something I have been missing, right? Seeing the fruits of my labor per se. So, but yeah, your background, you've been playing tennis for a while, and girl, that forehand is so wicked. And have you seen her video? She's got a video posted where she's hitting, and she hits like Nadal. Like her form is. I've never seen someone hit like you before, like a woman hit like you before. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh! Well, thank you. I'm very rusty.
You're going to be quick.
Let me ask you this. So, Kate, what are you, like a 4.0, 4.5, and Laura, what
I'm
level
probably
are you?
I would say I'm like a rusty 4.0, 4.5. I would say at this point. I mean, my serve has been so off lately. That's what's definitely like. If I were to join a team, I would definitely want to be like a 3.5, 4.0, just because my serve, I just cannot. There's something up with my serve. Every time I serve, it's just. Yeah, not good lately, but I used to be able to serve.
Welcome to the crowd, right? My serve always departs at the worst times. Yes. And Laura, what level are you, Laura?
Well, I can happily say today, after the new rankings, I'm finally a 3.5. I mean, I have been struggling to get there, and finally, I'm there. So.
That's your new. So you just reached your motherhood business goal. There you go, 3.5. Right?
After 7 years, it took a long time. That USTA ranking is, some of my friends, we joke that it's like the mafia. Like it has no rhyme or reason sometimes why people are ranked certain ways, but. Yeah, so and I was happy as a 3.0, but after a few years, you feel like maybe 3.5 is a good solid like player now.
Great, and Kate, you bring up you guys. What's interesting about you both is that Laura, you're in Charlotte, which is a warmer climate. Kate, obviously, you're there in Boston, where it's going to start snowing if it hasn't already.
I know.
And thank God I escaped in about October 1st. But let me ask you, Kate, first. Indoors, is there a facility? Do you play indoors, and how do you view that? Obviously, you have to work around motherhood and cocktails and tennis. How do you view the indoor season up there, and are you going to participate in that at all? And how does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I did find a club. So we moved here this past May, so we're only here for a year, so everything's very temporary. But I did finally found one club. Every other club I contacted around here had a waiting list. I mean, I guess. And it seems like, at least in the summer when we first moved here, there are so many new players, like in like 30s and 40s, starting to play tennis, I guess, after COVID, which is great. It's great for the sport. But so I would go to different clinics, and it would be a lot of beginners. So I finally found a good club in Dedham, which is 10 minutes away. And so I do play there just in clinics. I did not join the team just with like time constraints this year, but I hope to hopefully next year, wherever we go next, join a club, because here I just haven't had the best luck with finding a good club with good competitive players, I guess is what I should say. So, yeah.
So I should know this, but you said wherever you go next, is your husband getting transferred? Is he in the services or something like that?
Yeah. He's in the Navy. So we are waiting to hear where we go next. We should hear hopefully in the next week. I'm ready to know where we go, but so we're just waiting to hear.
Have racket will travel. There you go.
Yes.
Well, thank him for his service. Thank him for his service. Yes. And Laura, for you in Charlotte, you can probably play outside year round, right?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a big difference.
Maybe like a month or two out of the year that it gets a little bit like rainy and frozen, but because the courts will stay frozen for a while if it gets too cold. But we have a few indoor places we can play. We can work it out.
Right. Now, do you play normally, ladies, in the summer? Obviously, Kate, you've just moved there in May, but in the summer, is it a clay court experience for you both?
Yeah, I mostly play. I prefer clay. I play hard courts too, but I prefer the clay. Yeah.
And you too, Kate, in the summer?
And down in Virginia, it was always clay courts. Here, it's just been hard courts. Yeah, and I prefer the clay. It's just more fun. yeah, I prefer the clay definitely in the summer months.
M-
And
My
I
knees,
prefer playing outside than playing inside. I don't know, playing inside is just so, it's just different for me. So, or it's different for everyone. But yeah, I much prefer to be outside.
yeah.
Some people really like playing indoor courts. I struggle with it. I'll be honest. Getting used to the lighting and then looking up when you're serving, kind of thing. Yeah, it can be. It's
My
definitely a
knees,
different
my
experience.
knees prefer the clay. That's for sure. I'll put it that way.
My back.
Uh, yeah, back to, yeah. So here's a question for you, Kate, is you did the junior tournaments. Now, my daughter is a budding player. She's doing a lot of tournaments. She's got a national ranking in the 12s. She's in 12 and unders. And she's struggling. And this is there's a dichotomy here, because Laura just said how wonderful it is for you two to find a social niche through tennis. But when you're doing the tournaments, and this is where I think we lose a lot of people, kids, is you're solo, you're by yourself. It's not a team sport. And my daughter is very social and she's having trouble making friends. She can't understand why she goes out and the woman she's playing, the girl, I can say girl because she's 12, is saying mine every time she wins a point and, yelling at her about bad calls, and it's just not within her, persona to be an ugly person. I'm not saying those people are ugly, but it's tough on the junior ranks. And yet now, as moms, you're finding out how importantly social this sport is. And I think we might lose that with our kids at the young age that yours are. Kate, what are you finding?
I mean, I so relate to your daughter way back. I know it was a while ago for me, but I mean, oh my gosh, I remember it was just being so lonely and it was so competitive and you're out there and it's just, and you can't talk to anyone, it's not like you could talk to you on a changeover or anything like that. It is so lonely. And then you meet so many rude, I mean, I hate to say that, but you do come across a lot of, and this was, 20 years or 15 years ago, I came across a ton of just like rude kids that would do anything to win and challenging the calls way back when in a junior 12s, I mean, it was a 12s tournament and but yeah, so I remember, and that's why I stopped playing for a while. Cause it was like, why am I doing this to myself? I would kind of dread the weekends because we'd be driving somewhere else in New England to another another tournament. And so that's part of why I stopped playing for a while. So it's great. But I hope to be able to get to where Laura is at and have it be a social thing. Because for me, it has never been, I mean, other than playing on a club team in college, besides that, it has never been a social sport. And I like to be social. So I hope to at some point get to where Laura is, with a good team that supports each other and they can go out and have fun and not just talk about tennis as well.
Now, Laura, on the competitive side, you're playing on ladies teams. Does it ever get ugly? I mean, obviously you're social, you met your team, but do you get into, the argy bargy with the other teams?
Obviously, you meet a few people that can be challenging on the court, but I think the community as a whole, and you can see even on Instagram, I just feel like most people I come in contact with are good people. They're out there to have fun, be competitive too, but it's a very small amount of people that can be ugly on the court, right? But those are the people too that stick in your head. That's where a lot of the reels come from, right? Like, the bad line calls and that kind of thing. The stuff that we have to deal with, that it can be, you have to make it funny, otherwise you're not going to enjoy it, right? So but I think that for the most part, most of the people that I've played tennis against and with are just incredibly pleasant people. I don't know. I mean, what's your experience? What do you think? I mean, you're at the club level all the time.
I've seen it both sides. I've seen it both sides. I've seen in South Florida, the Boca Raton down to Miami. It's very competitive. And it gets somewhat ugly is the word to use. I think up in New England, it's not quite as competitive, but I know the DBH. I've worked with clubs on the DBH side, and it's very competitive for team placements, and people have this idea of how well they play.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of I helped a club up there in Weston, Mass, deal with how to choose their 7 or 6 or 7 women's teams with selectors who are anonymous, and then captains voting and that kind of thing. So it does get a little bit of the nitty gritty there in even in New England, but South Florida, very competitive. But I think, if you find your team cohesive, that's an important social aspect. Then you're playing a team sport rather than as what Kate realized when she was 12 is that you're playing a solo sport, and that's the big difference. And
it can be a little bit catty for sure, and also I think different because I've now been at 2 different clubs, and it's one club, like you said, it's very competitive. What team am I going to be on next season? Am I going to get moved up? But for the most part, the girls are still very friendly and get along. But yeah, you're right. Like that whole, and then at the other club, with that one other club that I've been to, it's more like, it's almost like everyone just kind of wants to stay together. So they don't even care. Like even the girls who are really good and could move up in team, they just, the competitiveness isn't really there. They just want to be friends and hang out. It's hard. Like I'm actually at a point right now trying to find a club where there's like a perfect balance. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find that, but it's like, I'd love to find a place where I can continue to grow as a player, be competitive, but still also have, those friendships and that team camaraderie. And yeah, so, but I understand what you're saying about the whole Boca area and that kind of thing. Cause I'm in a big city too. I mean, you got to think we're in the Metro League in USTA. And a lot of these teams are all about stacking, going to state, going to nationals, that kind of thing. So it's very competitive here in Charlotte for sure. Yeah.
So Kate, my business Beyond the Baselines is really looks at departments, tennis departments, pickleball, racket departments, clubs. Was when you grew up and now are clubs, do you see them as the focal point of tennis, or do you see it? I mean, obviously you're on the move a lot, so you actually probably go to the parks and recs departments and stuff like that. So is that difficult for you to find an outlet?
It's definitely, I mean, down in Virginia, I had a very tough time finding a place, but I think it was also where we were located. If we were closer to Virginia Beach, there's a lot more tennis. I learned after living there for like 7 years. But anyway, so I did finally find a club with good clay courts, but it seems like nowadays it is like there's pickleball, like the club I'm a part of here in wherever we live, Boston. It's an athletic club. I drove by it for months. I didn't even know they had indoor tennis courts there because it says Dedham Athletic Club. So I'm thinking there's no tennis courts. Meanwhile, they have 10 tennis courts there that I never even knew about. So it's just, it's very different. I mean, it's great though, that there are so many new players that are starting to play. So hopefully I don't know. And I don't mean to sound like tennis is dying out, but it does seem like a lot more people, a lot of like the older population, the aging population is going to play pickleball instead of tennis. Or at least from like a lot of retirement communities around here and or at least down in Virginia, pickleball is like the new tennis or new like paddle, I guess. And then when I was younger, it was paddle tennis was the big thing. I don't even know if that's still if that's still a thing anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paddle's popular. Yeah. Paddle tennis,
Okay.
platform tennis. Yeah. And then there's this new sport called padel, which is actually gaining a lot of traction down here in Florida and in the international, more international feel cities. It's gaining a lot of, because it's a European game.
And I gotta say, pickleball, like that was my initial impression too, because we went to like Hilton Head and I took a clinic with my mother-in-law and I felt like it was that kind of thing too, like for maybe the older population. But oh my gosh, so like I follow pickleball people on Instagram. Some of them follow me. It is a professional sport and it's not just for the old population. I mean, I see some crazy stuff in those matches. It's insane. It's very impressive. And then I tried to play over Thanksgiving and I could barely hit the ball. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, what's going on
Shorter
here?
racket.
Yes, it's so different. I find pickleball, I've played a couple times and I have the toughest time with the timing of it. It's so similar to tennis, but different. Anyway, I have a very tough time playing pickleball.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I was like, I knew I was not athletic, but geez, I was like, wow, really humbling me for sure.
So, Laura, let me ask you a question about your team experience, because this is a national question. Now, do you have team practices with a pro for your club? And B, do you prepay or do you pay by the session, or do you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these are the big questions that pros ask me every day.
I've done both. Okay.
Both.
So
okay.
So we were members at a country club and then we became members at something more of like a community center. So at the country club, oh my gosh, that was I'll be honest with you, the one I prefer is where we're at right now, because at the community center, you pay up front when you join the team, you pay up front for the clinics.
So it's a financial commitment.
Right. And it's like, it's less than $200 for, whatever the sessions are. I think like at least 8 clinics, right? And then you clinic once a week before your match with your team. You have 3 courts. So there's 12 girls on the team. You get 3 courts with 3 pros. You rotate. I mean, that's the way I'm doing it now. And it's great. It actually, like, everyone's there. Everyone comes to clinics. Before, at the club level, the country club, it's like every week, who's going to come to clinic? And you pay if you go. And so the commitment isn't there. And so you might go and only have 4 people. You might have 6, you might have 10. And you see, like, the higher up you go in your ranking, the less people show up for clinic at the club level. But that is, I will say, and even at the club level, I'm still great friends with a lot of those girls. They would prefer it to be the way it is at the community center where I'm at. Get the upfront fee. Everyone's committed to all 8 clinics. I mean, so just FYI to you.
That's a great viewpoint. And that's such an important question. And there's ramifications too, because on a team such as that, if a lot of times some pros will say, hey, if you don't come to practice, you can't play the next week. Now, I don't like that one either, because that's kind of holding the member over practice for participating in a team. But when you do the prepay, everybody's in, everybody's equal. And then, you're all there usually because you've already prepaid.
And if you don't show up, I mean, you've paid, right?
You paid.
I don't think you can do that where you say you can't play in the next match if you don't show up. I think because as a member, I'm already paying a lot of money to be a member of the club. So if a pro were to tell me you got to sit out next week because you didn't show up, I think that wouldn't go over very well.
I haven't heard. Well, I have heard that, and I have heard in the industry in the past that they'll pick first the people that show up. So there is some of that. Some of these directors,
yeah.
Some of these directors are, hell bent on keeping the revenues up. So you have to, understand that can happen. And as you're experiencing, which is fantastic, you've gone out, Laura, and experienced 2 different facilities with 2 different ethoses, environments, and theories as to how ladies teams should be run. Now, Kate, obviously you're looking for a team next year, wherever you may be. Obviously you guys are on Instagram, and you guys crack me up. The reels make me laugh. Laura, your reels, and Kate, your reels are just
funny.
So funny. And Kate, yours are, sometimes in fitness related too. But you guys are becoming influencers. And I mean, I was just looking at your followers. Laura, you have 1,380 followers. And Kate, you have 1,634. I'm struggling with 450. So you're getting very popular. And what about uniforms? Has anyone ever come to you and said, hey, would you put a uniform on so that you can influence other clubs to buy Sophie Bella uniforms or whatever, the Lucky and Love? Has that happened to you yet?
I mean, it hasn't happened to me yet. I don't really think of myself as an influencer. I kind of just created this, how Laura was saying to start off, like being lost in the motherhood stuff. I created it just to have something to focus, give me kind of a focus. That's terrible to admit. But this year, especially because it's just a weird year, we're only here for a year, and I've just been able to connect with other moms and other people interested in tennis and fitness. But so I haven't gotten anything like that. Laura probably has, though.
Laura?
Well, I mean, I've been approached by certain brands, and I've negotiated with some big brands, and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it. But but to me, that's not really so much what it is either, because so going back to the country club situation, one of the things I was missing now that I'm at the community center type place is that after play banter, right? Like when you're at a club setting, you hang out afterwards, you have lunch, you talk about the match. That doesn't happen at the community center. It's kind of like you go and play and you leave. And so I kind of started Instagram, but for another reason, but part of the reason was I really wanted a community to go to talk about what happens after matches, what happens during match, and it really has become that. And that is what I'm super proud of. I love the conversations that I'm getting in the comments, but also people DMing me about, they want to share their matches with me, or they want to ask me about, new moms getting into it. What racket should I get? Or I have moms messaging me about, do you like this tennis skirt? or tagging me in other feeds about tennis outfits and stuff. So I've really enjoyed that, making friendships through it and bringing together a community of people. So that's been great. But as far as the influence side, I would say that is part of the reason. Okay, so before I started Instagram, I was kind of known in our community for my tennis outfits. So people, I mean, this is what I'll say, and you
So
probably
you're influencing before becoming an influencer,
well,
is
but
what you're
I
trying to
will
say.
say, I think a lot of us do that on a small scale, right? Without knowing. I think the thing was that our tennis shops around here, they really don't carry a lot of the outfits. They carry a very small selection. And so when I would show up on the court with something that was not out there, the moms would be like, or the tennis players would be like, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? And when I told them where, they still struggled with finding it on their own. So a lot of them wound up saying to me, can you take me shopping? Let's go find, or can you text me next time you buy an outfit, text me and tell me what you got. So originally I started the page kind of for my friends, because it got to be a lot of work texting individuals. Like I became almost like a personal shopper without being paid, and it was a lot of work. And so I was like, okay, guys, here you go. Instagram. I had never been on Instagram before, but I was like, I'm gonna put it on Instagram. I'm gonna tell you where to get it. Go there. And then it just kind of grew from there. And then I don't know why. One day I did one of those reels, and it like people
Blew up.
loved it, and they started asking for it. And so now it's become a lot of those funny little audio clips and that kind of thing. But I love it. I have enjoyed Instagram over the past few months that I've been doing it. And like I said, getting to know people and talking about tennis. And then even like on the court, like I said, it's tennis, but then you find you have a lot more in common other than tennis. And that is what has happened through Instagram, which I'm sure you guys have found too, right? Like it starts off with this one interest that you have in common. And then you find out once you start talking to these people, like you have a lot of other common interests with them, which is just, and you form friendships, and it's been a great experience. I've really enjoyed it.
Kate, your Instagram's just as popular, and I'll be honest, you mix it up a lot with the fitness and the tennis and the motherhood and the cocktails. How much time, Kate, and this is what I struggle with. Like I did a really the other week doing a Woody Allen joke, right? And you have to you have to get the timing right, and you have to get the look right into the camera. How much time, Kate, do you spend doing a reel? I mean, does it come naturally, and do you do it like first take?
I don't know. I am terrible. I mean, Laura is so good with the reels. I am not good at the reels. I'm good at like posting, oh, I did this fitness, I went for a run or whatever. Not that it's that big a deal, but I hope it motivates other people to go out for a run that day, let's say. But yeah, I mean, it is time consuming. There are definitely like when I first started this account, I like back in, I don't know, September or whenever it was, I was spending way too much time on it. I'm like, because you get I got all consumed by it. And I'm like, okay. So now I just do it. I really have like scaled back and just do it occasionally. I wish I have no idea how to add in the voice like you guys do. I have no idea how to do that, but hopefully I'll learn at some point when I don't know, have time to sit down and figure it out. But it's definitely, I mean, Instagram is great, but it is so easy to just like, you could waste a whole hour just scrolling through other people's things, and there goes a whole hour of your day. So I love it. It's fun, but I definitely have to watch how much time I spend on it.
Yeah, you do. I actually handed off some of my Instagram reels to someone I worked with in London back when I was doing advertising and marketing, and they're kind of artistic and good at this stuff. I was like, I can't, it's taking so much time. And social media, it's free, but it's not free in terms of time. So that's what you have to keep thinking about. Let me ask you, Laura, go back to you. Professional tennis. And it's back post-COVID. We had the US Open this year. It was great. Do you ladies follow the tennis, the pro tennis? Do you know what's going on the pro tours. Obviously, we know what's going on with China, just announcing, WTA just announced China's not going to be acceptable. I mean, we're not going to have any tournaments in China with the WTA. Do you follow professional tennis, Laura? And do you keep up with it daily, weekly? What's your take on that?
Yeah. Okay. So I do follow professional tennis, and I started following it once I got into tennis, because I felt like maybe I could pick up some tips. And then I'm going to be honest with you, though, what is surprising, a lot of my friends and people I play tennis with do not watch professional sports. And that is why also the whole outfit thing that's why they don't know what's new with the tennis outfits. And that's why when I show up to the court, I'm watching tennis because I like tennis, but I know that the top tournaments, the top 4, is when the new outfits hit the market, right? And so I'm all over it. They don't watch it. They do not watch it. So that's why they're surprised when I show up in an outfit they've never seen before. But it's because a lot of people at the club level playing tennis, they do not watch professional tennis. In my experience, that's what I found. I do think, honestly, now that I have my page, my Instagram page, a lot of them are following me, and they've started watching more of the tournaments. I don't know why that is all of a sudden, but I mean, maybe tennis is on their brain. But even my husband said to me, he's like, he has some friends following my page. They've never played tennis or watched tennis before. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm watching tennis just because I'm following your wife's page and I love it. And now I think I want to go play, so it's fun to watch. It's addictive. And, but yeah, you're right. A lot of club level players do not watch tennis, I feel like.
Kate, what about you? Do you follow the pro tour?
I used to religiously. I mean, when I was growing up, I did a lot. Lately, no, I do not. I mean, a little bit here and there, but like if you were to, I mean, I know a lot of the players. I mean, I've heard of most of the players, but I mean, no, I do not. I mean, I wish I watched more. I don't really have an excuse as to why I haven't watched it, but I just haven't.
You got young kids. That's a good excuse.
Yeah, they don't want to watch
take
tennis.
A lot of time.
I wish my mom used to make me watch tennis, though. I wasn't watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and everything. I had to suffer through tennis, so I got to start it up with them. But definitely all the outfits. That's what made me want to start playing tennis. When I was 4 and up was that I wanted to wear the outfits. So that's what started it for me. Tennis clothes they're fun to wear. So.
Speaking of that, my daughter now she's 12, almost 13. So she's getting to that point where fashion is becoming important. So all of a sudden she's watching tennis, and she's watching men's and women's play. And I think it's partly, as you say, both of you say, it's somewhat about the fashion and about the outfits. And obviously you both are proving that. Have you watched the movie King Richard yet? Have you seen that movie yet?
I've seen it like 4 times.
It's only been out a few. Wow. But yeah, it goes there, and you realize how smart, first of all, Richard Williams was, but then you also realize how smart Serena and Venus are, and how they have, used their phenomenal play levels to actually propel them into fashion. Absolutely. And the most interesting part of that movie to me was Richard Williams' first condemnation, really, of what I think it was Reebok was going to offer. They said this is a one-night offer, and
no,
Nike, was it Nike? Sorry, yeah. It was Nike, and they said,
Reebok, yeah, go ahead.
Now you've seen it 4 times. I've only seen it once, so I don't know the whole story, but I was unaware of that situation, that he banked so highly on his daughter Venus playing so well against the number 1 player in the world the next day that he denied taking the offer. He decided not to take the offer, and they make that offer for, before the match. The results would never affect that contract. So obviously he won that bet. Do you think that people coming up, is this one way we're going to grow the tennis for the next 20 to 30 years, is through, I hate to say this, but through fashion and through Instagram and through social media and these kinds of avenues?
I mean, I think it makes sense nowadays where where kids are so into what they wear, more so I think than when we were younger. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I did not see the movie. I will watch it. I haven't seen it yet. but yeah, I definitely think that like with Instagram, it'll be every kid now has a cell phone at, I don't know how old, I'm guessing probably 10 or 11. They probably have a phone, or maybe young, I don't know. But so yeah, I definitely think that that Instagram and all of that will have a big impact on the sport of tennis.
What about you, Laura?
I think what I would like to see is a lot of these brands put a lot into the professional players, but like we've discussed, those of us at normal people at club level, a lot of them don't watch the pro tour, so they don't see the outfits, right? When it comes to Instagram, I've seen influencers on my feed in a tennis outfit, and then I go to their page, they don't even know how to hold a racket. They don't play tennis. And so these brands are paying them to wear the outfit and post it on their feed, but they're not even tennis people. I think they're reaching the wrong market. What I would like to see is these brands that are geared towards tennis actually reach out to tennis people, normal tennis people on Instagram, to show their product, to be honest with you. I mean, have you seen that? I just feel like I've been really shocked sometimes, because I also follow like some of the hashtags for tennis, and I'll come across someone and I'm like, who is this? This person doesn't look like they play tennis. Their racket, they're holding it like, you know. And so I click on it, I see that, and what their caption is, I don't really play tennis, but check out this outfit at so-and-so. Like they're getting paid to do that. I'm not really, I don't know. I don't think that's good marketing. I'd like to see some of these tennis brands actually market to their audience, and they need to realize also that it's not just, like you've said, Ed, professional sports. Yes, they put their gear on them. They hope it's seen, but it needs to be seen elsewhere, because a lot of people who actually buy tennis clothing are not watching the tournaments, obviously, right? Like, so find some other avenues, in my opinion.
You know what I find interesting? I did a little research because I knew we would talk about this. So I follow, Simona Halep, right? And I follow Serena, and I follow Venus. But there's a lot of pros, and I won't mention their names, that don't, and I'm talking female pros, that I'm surprised by the pictures they put up on Instagram. And I'm sure you've seen it. It's like them vacationing in Dubai or them vacationing in Hong Kong. Whereas Simona's page is very professional. It's familial. You can tell that she's a serious tennis player. But I'm surprised by some of the pros and the males too. The men pros I follow, some of them come up with some wacky and weird postings, and it surprises me, and it gets me a bit nervous as to what they're trying to portray of a pro tour, of themselves as a playing pro. Sometimes I get nervous. Have you found that too, Kate?
Yeah, tennis used to be just such a nice, like, I would think of it kind of like an innocent sport, like where you had to be quiet during the match. They're just like, can't think of the right word to use, but nowadays it is just so flashy, and whose skirt is the shortest and all of that. We're back, when I was first started, I guess maybe a little bit, probably a little bit longer ago than that, but it wasn't all about like, it's great. Everyone likes tennis outfits. I get it. But yeah, I wish it would get more to like the, like the classic tennis, like way back when, again, which I guess it won't. It's just the way our society is. But tennis used to be like such a nice sport. Like you'd go to a match and you would go, and it wouldn't be like crazy chanting or anything like that. Not that it's like that nowadays, but it is like at the junior, even when I was in high school, like some of the matches like would get rowdy with the other team, and it just shouldn't be like that. Like it should be a nice sport. It's not like you're out on the football team on a
the
field.
etiquette of the game. It's important. It is important. And I agree with you. Laura, when you go and play a match and you're playing against another club, does your captain ever say, hey, we've got to go out and win this, and no holds barred, no, nothing like that?
No. Actually, normally I'm the captain.
Oh, okay.
But no, I've never really had that kind of pressure, I don't feel like.
That's good.
I think we all put enough pressure on ourselves. You don't need someone else putting the pressure on you. I think we all go out there with pressure a little bit. Even though it's for fun, you want to win. You want to win, right?
It's the pressure that messes up my surf. I'll tell you that, ball tosses all over the place.
Yep. Me too.
I'm the only one. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Well, I'll give you, I try to listen to my own teaching, which is hold the ball like an ice cream cone. So you take the wrist out of it when this way, you want to hold it this way.
I have this issue too. I got you, Ed. I'm just
there you go.
Yeah.
So my final question to both of you is, where do you see yourselves as influencers on Instagram, but also as tennis players in the next, and you said it earlier, Laura, you set goals for yourself as a mom and as a business person and as a tennis player. Where are your goals going forward? Kate, I know it's a little more difficult for you to answer, but I'll let you go first because you don't know where you're going to be next year. But what are your goals in tennis, and where do you see your tennis taking you in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, my goals Laura's given me hope, because honestly, part of what has made me not want to get back into the tennis thing and join the team is because I feel like it will be very catty, and the pressure on if I'm playing doubles with someone, I don't want to let them down if I'm, if I serve terribly one game. But so I hope to actually get out there, play USTA. I'm guessing it would be USTA tournaments, or maybe a club. I guess they have different clubs that would play other clubs. But hopefully I would get back to playing USTA, be on a USTA team and do it that way. But that is my goal. And then hopefully with Instagram, I hope to just motivate other people to, get fit and I try and incorporate as much tennis as I can. Cause tennis, I love running and all of that, but tennis is my passion. I love the sport. So my goal is just to hopefully motivate others to take care of themselves and exercise, especially other, other moms, when you're not working, like Laura was saying, it is kind of it's like a lonely existence. And sometimes just, reaching out through social media nowadays can help them just, better themselves.
Great. And you, Laura?
Okay, well.
I know it's a deep question.
No, I just achieved my height. I'm 3'5", baby. I'm loving life right now. It's taken me 7 years to get here. And I'm almost, I don't even want to say my age, but I'm getting older. Let's just say that. So I could maybe go up to 4'0", but I don't know my age level if that's going to happen or not. It's a big reach. It's a big reach. So, with tennis, obviously, it's just continuously just trying to get better. You know this. You think you've got a great forehand, but there's always a way to tweak it and make it better, right? Or your backhand, anything you can tweak and make better. So there's always something to work on with tennis. And I think that's why a lot of us are drawn towards that. We want to better ourselves, and that's how we do it. As far as Instagram, Kate, I just love this community. You and I didn't know each other, and somehow now we're friends. My husband is on, he's on like an old website. I don't even know how it came about, some chat thing with a chat board with sports. And he is actually made such good friends. They've met when he travels, they meet each other. They've become really good friends. They support each other when someone's going through cancer or a lost spouse or anything like that. And I just kind of feel like Instagram has kind of become that. I have enjoyed meeting people and getting to know them. I love hearing about their experience and getting to know people. So, Instagram for me really is not really about influencing. If I influence, great, love that. But it really is more about the friendships I'm making and the connections, right? Don't you feel that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is what tennis actually was about in hindsight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
True.
when it first started. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, ladies, I have to say thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure getting to know you through Instagram and on here. Just for our followers, for our listeners, it's Laura Fox, and she is the Tennis Fox on Instagram. and it's Kate Cole, and she is Tennis, Cocktails, and Motherhood on Instagram. Two fabulous pages there. I highly advise you guys to follow these two women because their journey through our sport is going to be incredible to watch over the next 3 to 5 years. Thank you, ladies, so much for being on the podcast, and look forward to having you back again and seeing where you are in a couple of years.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.